Dear Venerable brothers, sisters and brothers, Dhamma friends, today towards our 7th Dhamma talk, may all you sit comfortably and may give the consent with 3 times, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. So nevatang abhisankaronti nati sanchetayanti bhavaya vibhavaya cha na kinchi loke upadiyati anupadinnaṃ na paritassati aparitassam paccattam yeva nibbāyati. Dear sisters and brothers, Dhamma friends, this is yet another quotation from the same particular sutta, namely Dhathu Vibhanga Sutta. Still we are on the very first statement of the Buddha, that is to say, person means nothing but these 5 elements, and Buddha himself give some little detail about this particular statement, and he enumerate 6 elements as for materiality, the presence of the materiality. 5th one is the absence of the materiality, that is to say the space. The 6th one is the mentality, the common name is the consciousness. With the help of the presence of the materiality, that is to say Patavi Dhathu, Apo Dhathu, Tejo Dhathu, Vayo Dhathu, namely the earth element, water element, fire element and the air element, one can start a pragmatic, tangible point that for that we human being can use their own body. In Satipatthana Sutta, if I am to quote, it says the Kayanupassana, that is the heap of the materiality, and whenever we focus towards the body, it manifests either singly or all 4 together. So, according to the individual personality traits and their likings and disliking, different people have different access. But in general, the Buddha presents the air element, which is representing the movement, an expansion, contraction, and the holding capacity. So this is what we understand the in-breath and out-breath in absolute terms. But at the beginning, yogis or the beginners never understand these absolutes. Instead, one may understand the natural characteristics or individual characteristics of the in-breath versus out-breath, or in-breath, out-breath versus any pain, any sound, any thought, or rising and falling of the abdomen, whatever it may be. And once you go deep and deep into the matter as an invariable benefit, he or she will be away from the sensuous pleasure and the perception regarding the sense pleasure, that is to say 5 hindrances. So more and more you go into the matter, 2 benefits. One thing is doing away with the sense pleasure and the sense perception. The second benefit is getting more and more acquaintance, the familiarity and seasoning with these 4 elements. So at the beginning, each and every yogi understand the presence of the matter. Presence of the matter at its peak performance. With respect to the breath, that is the middle of the in-breath and the middle of the out-breath. And there you can feel the rubbing and rushing, gushing sensation at your nostril, end of the nostril or top of your upper lip. So this indicates the starting point, and when and where someone familiarizes this kind of a manifestation of the element, often it is with the help of the other three elements. So the gushing and rushing sensation may be accompanied with the coldness and the heat, sometimes with the fluidity, sometimes with the cohesiveness, and sometimes with the hardness. All the kind of thing can happen within the object of Anapanasati or within the touching point, or sometimes when and where the mind becomes synchronized, when and where the mind becomes balanced, in the other parts of the body also. So, early meditation, meditators, when they face the interviews, they feel the heaviness of the arms or lightness of the head or heating on that part and the cold bubbles in the other part, like starting connected to the convention, but more and more it becomes frequent. More and more it becomes familiarized. Naturally, they are being, of course, directed, or otherwise they will see they are elementary characteristics. Whenever someone is ready to understand elementary characteristics away from their bodily parts, that is the transitional point from conventional truth to the absolutes. So they will see heat in some place, coldness in some other place, and stiffness in one place, and expansion in other place. So within the same tapestry, lot of elements, lot of things going to take place. And when that happens, you can't note the difference between the in-breath and out-breath, or sometimes you can't discriminate whether your attention is confined to the tip of your nose or the whole body. Whatever it may be, now the noting mind and the materiality, the corporeality is face-to-face it. So yogi has to facilitate this meditation without any noting, just let the mind to be frequented with these material elementary characteristics. And when it is going there, more and more you become immediate, more and more become proximate. The mind as well as the elementary characteristics both gather the momentum. When and where these two momentums come in par with, in equal with, there's a kind of a merging each other. Ultimately, yogi can't give the experience as such, but feel that you are in a powerhouse or inside the big machine house, and so much of activities one can see. And this is much obvious in the middle of the in-breath and the middle of the out-breath. And once that familiarity happens, the instructions of the Buddha is to see, if possible, of course it is with related to one particular phenomena like in-breath and out-breath, the beginning of the in-breath and the end of the in-breath. But if everything is going to become very charged and mobilized and activated, you can't find any beginning, any middle, any end. It appears like a flux. When that flux happens, there is no option for choice. So therefore, mind becomes lethargic, fed up, monotonous, bored, and sleepiness can set in. But at that time, yogi has to understand this has nothing related with their personal weakness. It is nothing, no mistake regarding the meditation, but the object of meditation and the noting mind merge each other, and they are, you are the experience. You are not the experiencer, you are the experience. So when it happens, more and more you go closer, proximate, immediate, the flux at the beginning appear like a beehive. And after you can find the beehive, after given a smoke treatment, they start to fly in a bigger space, but still the bees are the bees, but you are bound to see they are playing in a bigger space, and the mind also going to feel some kind of spacious. And you definitely understand that meditation is under very, very control, and it is very tame, and sounds can't disturb you, pain can't disturb you, or any thoughts can't disturb you, because the proximity of the object of meditation and the mind is so close, and ultimately you can see the things are flying in a flux. And more you familiarize it, you are bound to see the space in between. It's a very revolutionary start when that transaction, this very real changeover taking place. It is kind of a psychological change, philosophical change, and your attitude also changing. In order to give an example, Sayadaw Upandita, he told, at the beginning, if you take a teledrama, you can see male, female, the lover, the fighter and the girlfriend and all kind of thing. But if you little change the channel, it end up with just dots, not well focused. Dots going to happen. So whenever the actors are dissolved into a full of dots in the screen, you find something wrong. You immediately want to retune it in order to bring it into the proper frequency in the channel and try to see the drama. Then you can see whether it's tragedy or comedy. But supposing you are continue to see the dots in the TV and it is not attractive. Whether the story is comedy or tragedy, everything happening out of these dots. Dots are more preliminary than the drama. But now it is a mishap. Drama gone, dots happening. So suppose that you are observing the dots. Incessantly, this flux is going to happen. And if you are well instructed, you can see within 1 square inch, I think 42 or something like dots are available. It's a matter of technical matter. But whatever may be, 2 dots are not fighting each other. You can observe for years, they are happening in such a flux. 2 dots are never fighting each other. So you see now there's no fighting between the boyfriend and the enemy. There's no fighting between 2 dots even. So it is also make you boring. But it's a very interesting point. Dots are not fighting each other. And the more technical point is, more sensible part is, each and every dot has its own origin, its own transmission and its own end. Not a single dot missed this point. Each and every dot represents its appearance and its transitional nature and then disappearance. So you can observe even for 1 year, you never miss these 2 points if you go prepared. 2 dots are never fighting each other. Each and every dot has its own intrinsic start, appearance, and before the ending, it transition, it's evolved, its metamorphosis is going to take place, and then dissolve. So that indicates, in order to not to fight 2 dots, there should have space between. That is why they are not fighting. Even though they are doing in such a busy drama, such a busy flux. And in order to have individual beginning, individual transition or evolution and individual end, there should have a time gap from one dot to the next. But if you look at the TV screen, with these 2 points in your mind, you can see it is never fail. More and more you have to observe it, and ultimately you find that each and every dot has its own limitation, time and space. So it appears like not fighting, and appear like each and every dot has its own, the beginning, the transition or the evolution and the end. So that indicates, even though it is happening in the incessant way, in such a flux, each and every, they are maintaining a kind of a principle. There is a kind of a universal law. Likewise, when you are going to see your flux in your meditation, at the beginning it appears like a vomit. It appears like something very ugly. But if you are well instructed, you can see the flux, even though it appears like a flux, it is having its own intrinsic characteristic. So when and where more and more you to see, you can find whether this flux is leading to a tragedy or comedy. Whenever you are going to confine it to a male, female or convene or convention, there's a tragedy and comedy. But when it comes to the dots, when it comes to the flux, you have to do away with the tragedy and comedy and observing. So the Buddha used the term, you become dispassionate. You become somewhat relinquished. Rather than the teledrama, the dots are dispassionate, you become, and you get relinquished because observation itself is appear like a torturing. Observation itself appear like a punishment. So when and where your meditation also, when the materiality you are bound to see in a flux, and with the full of devotion, full of energy or enthusiasm, or full of mindfulness, and if you are going to observe this with a focused mind, with a one-pointed mind, and to understand this is the biggest knowledge in the world, because it is happening under your very nose. So far in your samsara, you try your best to escape it. In order to look at outside scenes, listening, smelling, tasting and touching, because you are hating this particular event. You are hating the present moment. You are hating the truth. You are hating what is under your very nose. Now, if you are at all managing to observe it, it is nothing but due to the faith on the Buddha. You are observing not for the gain, not for the fame, not for the money, not for any other sensuous pleasure. But if you have enough faith, and the Buddha is emphatically says, this is the thing to look at. This is the thing to look at consistently. You have to season it as much as possible. And you have to understand, this is the point, Dhamma is working at the full-fledged cause and effect relationship, no involvement of yourself, things are happening. Whether you observe or not, things are happening. Now you've given up everything, but observe, this observation is called vipassana. It's a special kind of observation, it is for any thrill, no any frills, no any gain, no any fame, nothing but you observe. And anyone observing this, Buddha says Sangha. This is the people, those who have the fear of sansaric journey, and they really expect kind of a emancipation, they have to look at it. When you are looking, this value of this observer, of the scenery becomes reduced, but you gain kind of a momentum. Ultimately you find the things supposed to appear is less, but everything happen in a big space or relatively useless, valueless thing, and it has no any beginning, no any middle, no any end. The tapestry, the canvas, the volume, the space is completely different from the appearing dots. And behind there's no beginning, no middle, no end. And when and where you see it, you will understand. Of course, you are seeing because of you are listening to Buddha. You have done so much of mistakes earlier, now to try to see it. Then you see, unless otherwise you are well instructed, you never see the space in between. You are bound to see the material, the phenomena, which has its own origin, its own middle, its own end. But you have to understand it is happening in such a stage, or such a canvas, or happening in such a space, that space has no beginning, the middle and the end. But our senses never train for that kind of thing. We are masters to avoid it. And now, after looking at the matter as such, to the most as detail as possible, you are bound to see they are playing in a big space. That space is not comprehensible, not sensible, not touchable, but with your wisdom you can understand matter cannot exist without a space. Matter confined due to the surrounding space. Therefore it is called parichinna akasa. Parichinna akasa means each and everything is covered, delimited, bounded by the space. So when and where you see this, you can see the magician's game. It only see the positive side, existing side, matter, never focus into the space. When you look at the night sky, you see only the stars. You never see the darkness, even if it is seen and gone unnoticed. For example, if you have a special kind of magical rake, you can pull all the stars into one corner and put into the one corner of the sky, and to see little amount of positive stars and the space, it is such a big difference. Stars cannot represent even 1% or 2% of the space or the sky. Rest of it is the space that we can't see. We don't see, we don't write poems upon that. We have no aesthetic value about the space, but we can pray, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high. We are trying so much on the stars, but we never see space in between. Moment you see the little twinkle star make such a big drama. And it is happening in such a big space, but our senses, not that it cannot, but it never appreciate it. But this is the trick of the Vijnana. Vijnana is appreciating only supporting the desire, only supporting your conceit, only supporting your self-centeredness. But the space never give that kind of a backing. Space never satisfy your desire. Because it is something negative. And it never give any conceit. Comparing. We can say stars, big one, small one, brighter one, not one, close one, far away. But the space, can you measure the closer space and the far away space? Or more darker than the less dark? Nothing. No measurement possible. No conceit can take place. And you can't claim it because it is not tangible. You will never get proud of. If you say they are going to discover a new star, definitely you will get the award and you will get all the kind of thing. But if you are going to say enormous, endless space, then they will ask, then what? Yes, space, yes, then what? Nothing discovered. No any research, no any science there. But the thing is, when and where your attention go to the space side, then only you understand the totality. Because out of the totality, 96% for the present calculation is space. Less than 4% or only 4% represent the matter. So now we are talking about the physics, now we are talking about the chemistry, now we are talking about the zoology, now we are talking about the biology. It is less than this 4%. We never thought about, we never comprehend the outer space, but without that, the Buddha says, how partial your knowledge is. And you are claiming, I am an expert in that subject and this subject, but without knowing, the majority is going to a dark spot or black hole. So when and where you see difference between, it is naturally, one can ask, why we have been on this earth and we are looking at all the kind of thing, we never thought about this space because our vijnana is so tricky. It is so perverted, it wish not to have that kind of to be expressed. Just like the King Suddhodana wished not to have his son to see the old age, sickness and the death. And the ordained person. He wanted to show the world is as something very young, very good and enjoyable. Likewise, the space also been hidden. So when and where you observe, you can see comparatively what a big proportion the space is going to represent. And whenever you are going to give equal attention at least, then you can see you feel so bored. You feel so exhausted. You feel so monotonous. You feel so sleepy. Because now you are more towards the nothingness. And under such circumstances, if you have the real courage and the real faith, the real energy, real mindfulness just to see it as it is, you can see there's a drive behind, always pulling the attention to the something existing rather than the space. The driving force you consider something universal, but the Buddha is not happy. He says, it is worth calling this consciousness. Consciousness is the one discriminate this matter and non-matter, and give the attention to the very tiny particles or tiny fraction, tiny proportion, and make the complete world out of this matter. But if you do not allow the unfair judgment of the consciousness, you can see your worldview, how unbiased, how biased. Then only you will understand the power of consciousness. It is each and every moment is creating so that we will be pulled. We will be attracted to the something, towards the matter, because it is satisfying you. It is satisfying your desire, it is satisfying your conceit, it is satisfying your self-centered calculation. But if you are to understand the world in the totality, you can't do away with the majority part. So then only you try to see the jugglery, the magician's work, how much we are being biased to this matter. So when and where that kind of bare minimum level of consciousness, when you reduce up to that, you see when the consciousness become cornered, its function, its malevolence, its cheating nature, its perversions will be reduced. And under such circumstances, you feel you have selected the matter which is creating frustration, which is creating kind of irritation and agitation, and you find solace, you find freedom, you find solitude in the matter. But by mere selecting the matter, you have avoided your freedom, your peace of mind, your solitude, because it is maybe lying on the space side. Vijnana never allow you to take that kind of a view. So therefore you understand, not only understanding the space or akasa, but the pull more towards the matter is not a mistake of akasa. Akasa won't give any fair chance or proportion because of the function of the vijnana. And when the vijnana is come up to that level, and still if you can be aware of it, be conscious of it, that vijnana is, the Buddha says, is the most purified form. Is with the least amount of magical powers. And that is the kind of a very purified mind. And with that you can see the world in its due proportion. And when that happens, the Buddha says you get the executive powers. If you wish to see the world as a space, you can see this as a space, because you know it is more than 95% space already. And if you wish to see everything, even this less than more than 95 is being put into the minority and exaggerated the matter, it is the function of vijnana, then you can see the vijnana is the most powerful thing, most preliminary thing, most primordial thing. That also you can see. Or you can do away with everything. That means you can be without any so-called labels. Once the mind develops up to that only, you can command and demand and let the mind to be there without any kind of a label. This is a matter, this is a space, this is a vijnana, nothing. So, or otherwise you can let them play, not to worry. Matter can come, space can come, vijnana come and do juggleries. So when everything happens, the Buddha says that these things are happening, whether you like or not, whether you know or not, due to one of your volitional desire or your conditioning, you find the matter and you find the space is subtle. And you find the matter is gross, space is subtle, subtlest is the vijnana. That kind of a comparison takes place. Still the Buddha says it's a conditioning. So, if you make a determination instead to not to have any conditioning, nābhi sanceteti, nābhi sankaroti. That is the highest training. When things are there, you are not going to put any label, you are not going to do any comparison. And when and where you make your mind without any conditioning, without any volitional activity and without any commitment with this phenomena, the Buddha says at that very thought moment, your mind becomes so still that is worth calling Nibbana. That does not indicate the scene, the phenomena is completely calmed down, but the only thing is you reduce your impact or inflicting nature of the phenomena because your mind is trained. Your mind is so trained, it is called unshaken mind. It is no comparison between the matter, space or whatever may be. They are doing in their full-fledged dance, but you train your mind in such a way, who cares? Don't care about that. And that is the outlook you must be to the world. When if it is happening, the impact from the world and your reaction to the world, both of them are nullified. It is called unconditioned mind or unvolitional mind. And that, of course, for the traditional Buddhist, they call it is very, very supreme. It is very purest form. Am I qualified to have that kind of a thing? Maybe that you can have your own inferiority complex as much as you like it, no problem. But the thing is that has some ethical value, that has some social value. If you are going to give values to these worldly things, your chances and your opportunity to see this total picture is blocked. But the thing is, you can't live without the world. You have to have your own basic necessities, or basic needs. So therefore, instead of the basic needs, if you are going to exaggerate this and try to be a consumerized and luxurious, hardly you find time to see this world phenomena in the society at large. So therefore, in the discipline, you must have your lifestyle, you must have your other activities, must be reduced as much as possible to the utility value rather than this exaggeration. If you are going to do exaggeration, you are always conditioning your mind, always you are developing volitions. So therefore, when the meditation come up to a certain level, you have to be aware Not only the materiality happening or not happening, not only to be aware of the space manifesting, and you have to understand how to be, not to get involved with the volition. How to be, not to get involved with thinking, projecting, planning. Therefore, the Buddha says, whenever the vijnana is being cornered by not doing transgressional kind of defilements, but not doing the obsessional kind of defilements, vijnana try to find the establishment of chetana, akalpana and anusaya. Chetana means you are developing some volitional thinking. That means you are daydreaming or night dreaming. Whatever may be, vijnana take hold in that. So therefore, we have been so accustomed, we have been so addicted to thinking and in the volitional activities, the Buddha tried to indicate our body has some volitional activities and non-volitional activities. Sasankhara, abhisankharati, kaya sankhara, that means bodily action. It has something, you have volitional involvement, there are some other thing, whether you like it or not, body is already doing. It has its own agenda. So once you reduced, or once you restrain, once you discipline your volitional activities only reduce to the maximum, you can see even though you like it or not, body has its own functions. As far as you have volitional thing, you are complicating the thing. Ultimately, volitional thing appear and cover the camouflage everything. You will never see that unvolitional or involuntarily what is happening. So discipline, whether it is moral, concentration, or wisdom, is confined to the volitional activities. So it is not going beyond the volitional activity, because that you can't do it. So you have to understand that your discipline must be confined to what you are volitionally get involved. So physical action, what you do with your wish, will, and the volitional activities are the thing the mindfulness will take care. Mindfulness is not concerned about what is happening within your body. For example, in the sleep, you are moving here and there. Sometimes your eye movements are there. And other things happening, but never create any kind of akusala or any kind of defilements. So, ethical value is, before disciplining yourself, you have to understand in a social event or any kind of work you do, how much volitional part is involved. So, mindfulness will indicate this is voluntary and this is involuntary. This is why the Buddha says in the breathing, don't do forced breathing. That is not a meditation, it is agitation. You have to reduce it to the involuntary or passive or natural breathing. You are just observing it. But some yogis, they complain, whenever they try to do anapanasati, they can't do away with this forced breathing. Naturally, it appears the forced breathing. They don't know, whenever they give the attention, mind start to do forced breathing. That discrimination also becoming complicated. And the second thing is verbal behavior. When we are talking, what is the necessary part, short to the point and short and sweet, and how much is the exaggeration? How much is you are putting exaggerations? So exaggeration is the younger brother of the lie. You don't know. Lying you know very bad. But exaggeration is the same family, younger brother. So mass media means mere exaggeration. No truth. If at all, it is the truth which is bent, not the straight one. So if you wish to become an IT person, you must know exaggerations. Otherwise you are utter failure. If you are going to tell the truth, you can't sell that. There's no commodity value. If you can exaggerate it, anything you can sell. And this is the external, and internally you have vitakka vichara, applying thoughts and the discursive analyzing thoughts. They are also always analyzing towards the desire, always analyzing towards the conceit, always analyzing towards the self-centered ideas. When and where the analytical thoughts go in free of desire, free of conceit and free of self-centeredness, they become very boring. No value. So this is the only part Buddha was highlighting. So therefore such a thing appear like tasteless. So therefore you have to take care about volitional activities or volitional contribution towards your articulation and your vitakka vichara, and when you are uttering some words, hardly you can discriminate how much you talk consciously, how much it is due to your momentum, words are running in at a speed. So it is also different. And when you go to the mental activities, there's one book called A Thought Without a Thinker. Out of our thoughts, more than 90% no thinker. They are just mere thoughts. It is due to the habitual way it is happening. But the poor commoner, without the discrimination whether you have a thinker inside or not, they take everything into their responsibility and ultimately end up with frustration, end up with panic, end up with depression, thinking, my mind is so unruly. My mind has no any shame, no any fear. I try my best to be a best Samaritan and a disciplined person, but I can't discipline my mind. But if he or she is going to understand while you are doing one in-breath and out-breath, thoughts happen. How much thought due to your volition? How much thought due to your invitation? How much thoughts due to your will? You have no accounting, you have no bookkeeping. So everything you think as your mistake. But if you can discreetly say, what happens, the Buddha says, don't worry, they are without volition. Volitions are the thing. Sabbe, Chetanam bhikkhave khammang vadami. If it is out of volition, you accumulate karmic forces. If it is without the volition, you can completely leave it aside. It is null and void. But in order to understand each and every thought, does it has any kind of a agenda or theme, or is it coming out of my volition? Very difficult, unless otherwise you restrain your physical and verbal those faculties. Then only you can understand. Majority of thoughts are without any thinker. They are happening in a habitual way, but non-meditators and people, those who do not understand, they make it a point to worry. They make it a point to get frustrated, get depressed, and no medicine available. But if you can keep bookkeeping, these are the things happening in the volitional, with the will, with the volition, and this is not, then you can say, whether you meditate or not, more than 95% are without any volition. Anything, any thinking you do with volition, it is dirty. That's a flat statement done by the Arthur Schopenhauer. He mentioned any will is evil. Any willful thinking is evil. Because anything you think in order to maximize your desire, in order to maximize your conceit, in order to maximize your self-centered thing. So therefore, the Buddha says, Sabbe sankhara dukkha. Sabbe sankhara anicca. We daily chanting it, but in thought process, You don't know how much we are thinking about our children, about our future, about our projects, about our the establishment in our nation as a Sinhalese Buddhists, and getting the full economic and political sound nation as Sinhalese. We think these are very benevolent and we have to think. And therefore everything is being credited with that PhD and double doctorate and professorship and all the kind of thing. So the Buddha says, Sabbe Sankara Dukkha, Sabbe Sankara Anicca. So whenever the Arthur Schopenhauer brought out this idea, each and every will is evil, he was reduced to a nihilist and destructive person. He killed Western philosophy. He was a fairly decent man, but his follower was the Friedrich Nietzsche. He whacked it and he reiterated it, told whether you like it or not, anything, whatever you are going to think, you are thinking with this malice. That is called will to power. You are any thinking, willful thinking is nothing but will to power. And when Dhammajiva, he wrote a book in Buddhist Publication Society, Arthur Schopenhauer and Friedrich Nietzsche, and he mentioned these are the two revolutionary thinkers in the Western thinking, and they are heavily influenced by the Buddhist teaching, specifically Arthur Schopenhauer, and they are, Buddha he also says, when the vijnana is reduced to the most pure form, not abhisankaroti, not abhisancheti. Your first and foremost discipline must be not to have willful thinking, conscious thinking. No any future planning, no any formulas. You try to see, whenever the mind becomes pure, it feel like future projection. It feel like have a nice formulas and calculations. Not only you, I mean not only on the pleasure principle, you think about your children, your parents, your relatives, your nation, other places. So that is called bhavatanha. Let me explain it this way. Whatever you do with the pleasure principle in order to satisfy your eye, ear, nose, tongue and the body, called kamatanha. Whenever you are thinking about your children, your parents, your relatives, other places, other beings, that is called bhavatanha. It is spreading the mat away from you. So hardly you can satisfy yourself. Not a single human being died satisfied. Uno loko atitto kamadaso. It's a flat statement. Everyone died without full satisfaction. And never satisfied. And it's always a vacuum. And always there, each and every thinking is in order to satisfy the sensuous pleasure. Sigmund Freud category it all sexual pleasure. Buddha was little decent, he put it into the sensual pleasure. That is called kamatanha. When and where you try to be one-upmanship and you want to show your colors to your whole, the clan and all the family and all the kind of thing is called bhavatanha. You are taking a huge responsibility without your potential, without your qualification. And what happens is, you get more and more impediments, more and more blockages, distractions, and you hate these all blockages, all impediments, telling I am such a benevolent person, I am innocently thinking about my family, I am innocently thinking about my relatives, I am innocently thinking about nation, my country, but these senseless fellows and senseless climate is coming and disturb me, I have to kill him, I have to destroy it, I have to... So ultimately this I immediately change into a hatred. That is called vibhavatanha. So Buddha says, when the mind becomes pure, or when the consciousness come up to the as purest as possible, take care not to go for bhavai vibhavayacha. Not to develop this idea to think about the benefits of the other beings, of course the benefits of the other being it's a good concept. But you must have your own potential, otherwise you are just opportunities. Without your potential, without your possibility, without your capacity, if you are just thinking that you are try to get a job, not with your qualification, but with the MP's letter. It is opportunities. That is what you call opportunities. So if you have the qualification, you will get the job. But if you take the political influences, that means you are going to take the opportunity. And the Buddha is assuring yet another thing, whenever you purify the mind and understand the tricky game, ultimately you develop the potential. You have your capacity, you have your merit. At that time, if you are not helping, you are selfish. So these two, you have to be very sharp. Before you come up to the maturity, before you come to the full potential and full merit, if you are going to think, if you are going to have a special magical formulas, that is what you call the opportunist. But passing that magic of the mind, or tricky game of the mind, you understand you can slowly develop unshaken mind. You are not driven by 8 vicissitudes of the world. So that mind is the most potential. It's the most meritorious one. And that mind is naturally compassionate to the beings. It is not to your parents and your family and your clan. That compassion is to the whole humanity without any discrimination. So that is what I am telling, even the mind has not gone up to that kind of a very deep purification of the consciousness. You must have this ethical understanding. Don't take these unbearable, unanswerable big responsibilities. You are self-torturing. You have to understand your potential and first thing first. So when I about to come back to Nissarana, there was letters going one after the other. There should have someone in the Nissarana to run the place. So it happened me to go and ask Venerable Sayadaw's permission to come back. And he goes, gate is open, you came into the open gate, now the gate is open, you can go out, no problem. So after the interview, he asked, and after going back, what are you going to do? Then I told, they wish me to teach meditation. He had such a sarcastic smile. You half-boy yam. And whoever going to eat will get the stomach troubles. And do you know Pali? And he got the Dhammapada book. And he told, Attanameva patamam patijaggeya nivare. He read the 2 stanzas. He told, mind your own business. After qualifying only you are ready to do it. Otherwise, if you are going to help others, that's a bloody word. I am sorry for this using this term. Vested interest. Vested interest means you are vesting a power upon you to help others, making use the mere poor nature of the other person, and you are self-boosting yourself. And this is the worst thing in the human mind. You have no right to help others or take their suffering out as far as you are in the suffering, as far as you are in the trouble. So Buddha says, if the people are sinking in a boggy place, if one person is going to raise another person, is it possible? Impossible, because you are going to sink. By helping us, our best thing is to go to a dry place and help the other person with a strategic way. So this point is very clear when the mind come up to the point where nothing you can see, and you feel uncomfortability, you feel a burning time for nature, you feel kind of a torturing kind of a thing, you feel like doing something. So therefore mind come out with 1001 projections and proposals and new ideas and creativity, but all things are nothing but the proliferation, frothing of the untrained mind, consciousness. So it is not a crime. That is the nature, that is the universal nature. Your vipassana means you have to observe it with a distance, as a distance observer. Don't let the vijnana or consciousness to take you for a ride by these prop-up ideas, this proliferation, with this frothing. So whenever you observe the frothing, real you can see who am I. This is more real and more hidden, and this is the only time it is going to happen, like a pus coming out of a wound. The frothing going to take place. You can observe years, not only hours, years. It is coming out one after the other, one after the other. So much of projection, so much of novelty, or so much of creativity, so much of productivity. And that is what you keep your vijnana busy. As far as it is busy, it is frothing, so much of conceit, so much of self-centeredness, so much of unsatiable desire to the matter. So observing that, the Buddha says that is the most refined kind of discipline, and the biggest of the morality. Calm down your bodily activities, calm down your verbal activities, and reduce the volitional functions of the mind, and let it come to a spacious place, or place without any matter as such, and observe it, how much things are coming, without any agenda, or without your volition, but shamelessly, they come one after the other. So, if you can observe with the unshaken mind, the Buddha says, at that time the pain can happen. At that time the pleasure can happen. At that time, no pain, no pleasure can happen. So, whenever the pain happens, you can see your irritation, the raga patika anusaya, the hatred towards the pain. Whenever the pleasurable thing happens, if you are observant enough, you can see the desire, the welcoming idea to this pleasurable feeling. Whenever the no pain, no pleasure happen, you can see the boredom. You can see it is monotonous, tasteless, eventless, not dramatic. So not only that you are observing the individual kinds of feelings, but you can see there are undercurrents, there are latent tendencies, and when and where you see, the pain by itself is no problem, but the hatred to the pain is the one creating volitional activities and karmic forces. And the pleasure itself is not a problem, but the desire and the welcoming ideas and your excitement to the pleasure is the one, is the point where you get committed into these karmic forces. When and where the pain, no pleasure happen, you become bored, you feel like changing the posture, get up and go changing everything. So that there you can see the ignorance. So then you can see under the carpet so much of dust. And above the carpet, when the visitors happen, you can sweep and clean and do. But once in a way, when you open the carpet, underneath there is so much of dust. But the Buddha says these are so perverted, so in a cheating way, mere understanding their racket itself is enough. And nothing to fight against. Because so far they were growing without any observation, without the light of mindfulness. Now when the mindfulness going to happen, you see, each and every moment we are get hooked up with one or the other creative ideas. So this is how we create the next moment, torturing. Next moment by itself is the Nibbana. Next moment by itself is pure. But we are not, we are so industrious, we are so creative, we are so productive, make each and every moment infested with defilement. So you can't do away with it unless otherwise you reduce the defilement in the present moment. And your main task is to not to infest the next fresh thought moment. So you can't do while you are in the normal, as a normal citizen without discipline, without meditation, without refinement. But even if you once refined, and if you think when the mind is free, I have good thinking, I have good aesthetic ideas, and I can paint nice pictures, I can sign good lyrics and all the kind of thing, that means you don't know the value of meditation. Even after reduce it up to the minimum, you don't know how to do, not to have any volitional activities, not to have this creative thinking, but understanding how they are frothing, how they are proliferating, how they are coming out. They have their own agenda. But never your well-being. Never your well-being. They are using you as a slave and put you into a tension and frustration, and keep on you are doing. So therefore, once you reduce to this pure mind, relatively pure mind, then you have to understand shamelessly these sanchetana, cheteti, abhisancheteti, anuseti, your volitional thinking and proliferation, mental proliferation, that means your habitual kind of thing, as well as your latent tendencies, they are the one frothing. So they are the place you can understand who am I. You can see what the momentum it is running. Even if you look at it, it is running in such a speed. So therefore, how long, how much time you have to be patiently observe these underlying tendencies in order to understand their malevolent nature. They are the agenda. And just to see, never they are playing or running for one's own well-being, one's own goodwill. And therefore, the Buddha says, on that line, I have nothing to do, I can't do, I have no any contribution you can do to you individual being. You must be very efficient in meditation, and once you come to the nearing to the rock bed, you must understand, don't create a new proliferation, new ideas. And in the Cetana Sutta, and here, as well as in the Pottapada Sutta, clearly Buddha says at that time, they come like a free, how can I say, advisors, government-appointed lawyers for the cases. The government give the money, only you should have a case, that's it. Government will the lawyer and other part lawyers, they are judges, they are, the court is running. Otherwise you can't run this ministry. In Sinhala we call Godaperaka Dorua. So much of ideas, so much of things happen, you appear like it's very prolific, very brilliant, very fitting, very appropriate, and they are very productive. But you don't know the Vijnana is trying to make itself busy. Becoming a busy, it covers the spacious side and pulling the attention to the materialistic side. Ultimately you end up with the desire and the conceit and the self-centered idea. So therefore, at that time, just to observe without holding them, without committing into them, it says in my vocabulary, I say it is inhumane. Human being can't practice that. Because human beings are, whenever they free, they want to have creative thinking. They want to have something new, something productive, something novel, something creative. So this very creativity is enough to spoil the next moment. The moment you understand this mechanism, this is inbuilt mechanism, by observation, you can reuse the momentum and you can take the situation under control. Not only you understand the present moment is least amount of defilement, you be aware of it. You are conscious of it, and you never allow the next moment to get infiltrated or infested, and therefore you take so much of care. That is sabba papassa karana. No any meritorious deeds you have to do, you have to understand undoing, deconditioning, unlearning, and not to commit any mistakes. So that is why the Socrates mentioned, first do no harm. That is the rule for the doctors. The Buddha mentioned, sabba papassa karana. Now the mind is fairly free. Don't try to create this and that. And that is the way you get defiled and get involved and get frustrated and get emotionally get involved and agitation. Not to have agitation, the Chetana volitional thing is the most least but very most complicated culprit. So therefore, stopping is very difficult, but understanding the momentum, understand the difficulty itself, you see when you are unmindful, when you are in the sensuous pleasure, how much this would have happening in the momentum. And when they are come into the fruition, and you say, I am a very innocent person, how come that kind of a bad crime to me? Because I never did it like that. But because it takes little time to mature, once it matured, you can't do away with it. So therefore, when you go to the deep bottom and discipline yourself not to get committed with, is can we imagine any other teacher than the Buddha come up to that level? Prescribing the method to come up to that purity, and once you come there, you must have the correct perspective, radical reflection, or correct view. Even if you are meditating, if you are not refined the view, still you are falling into the same trap. So therefore, I am not telling that each and every moment you are experiencing this freedom is Nibbana. But I am telling from that onward, a lot of training you have to understand, season that thought moment as much as possible, and see the tendency behind to do something. Either thinking or talk or do something, and that mere tendency is enough to defile the next thought moment. The moment you understand, I earn fairly a good state, and my main task must be to restrain myself, discipline myself, not to infiltrate or not to infuse, disturb or defile the next thought moment. It is merely on individual's responsibility. No one can help at that moment. But the very dramatically or pathetically we can say, these things you can't do at the deathbed. These things you can't do at your old age. These things you can't do when you are fallen sick. So that is why it is say, be mindful and mind your own business. With that remark, I would like to stop today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.